what's happening here is the European Union's court, the European Court of Justice, is actually taking a position of power over the European Court of Human Rights, who of course have administered the Convention for many decades. And just remind ourselves, Mary Lou was quite right about Article 52, that restrictions may be imposed on the exercise of fundamental rights, in particular in the context of a common organisation of the market. What that means is that any one of the first 51 fundamental rights that were given in this treaty can be altered, changed or taken away by a political court in Luxembourg, and there is nothing that any government or any court in any member state country can do to change that. So, I mean, without Article 52, you may well have an argument that this Charter of Fundamental Rights could be a beneficial thing for workers' rights and all the rest of it, but with 52 and with the ECJ now having precedent on these things over the ECHR, that argument simply isn't valid.
What happens to Ireland's position in Europe if we get a no vote?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Why should it? I mean, if Ireland votes no, it is virtually certain that the Czechs will not ratify the treaty, and it is certain that the British will get a referendum, which I would have thought, well, it's difficult to see 65, perhaps 65, 66% of Brits saying no. What happens is the whole European project is stopped in its tracks. It judders to a halt momentarily, and I'm arguing that that would be a good thing. We've been pushing on at breakneck speed. I mean, we've been legislating at such a rapid pace. It was estimated recently that in Germany, over the last decade, 84% of laws that have been made in Germany over that decade had been laws that had been made by European Union institutions and not by their own parliament. So I think that the Irish voting no would give all of us a chance to have a think, to have a say, to have a debate, and would be a very, very good thing.
Well, Nigel, does Ireland need to worry about foreign investor perception if it votes no?
I think it does. But this whole area of the economy and economic control, I thought Dick Roach's comment was interesting, that, you know, many years ago you had to look to London, and you seem to be happy to swap subservience to the British for subservience to the European bank in Frankfurt. I don't see necessarily why that's a benefit. I also wonder, this whole debate about the economic stall. On the question of foreign direct investment, I used to come to Dublin a lot back in the 1990s when I had a real job and worked in the private sector, which is, I know, a very strange concept in politics these days. Nearly everybody's spent their whole life in the public sector. But I used to come here, and a lot of my friends relocated to Dublin and came to Dublin, and the big advantage of coming here then is still the big advantage of coming here now, and it is, of course, that you've got a highly competitive corporate tax base, and there have already been discussions and proposals in the European Commission to start to harmonise corporate taxes. This treaty takes us closer to harmonise corporate taxes, which is the thing that would destroy FDI into Ireland.
David, let's just have
talking about democracy, David. I mean, it would be democratic to respect the fact that the French, the Dutch and the Irish voted no. What kind of democracy is it that says you voted this way, you've got it wrong, you've got to do it again? I don't call that democracy.
That it is absolutely imperative that we vote yes.
Okay,
so I think we need
I want to give
that.
Nigel Farage a quick opportunity to respond. And by the way, if people could keep their questions brief, we haven't got that long.
Well, I assume that you're a Monet professor, are you?
Pardon?
I assume that you're a Monet professor, are you?
I carry that.
Oh, wonderful. So here you are, talking about honesty and frankness. Wouldn't it have been rather better if before your question you declared an interest in this and explained to these people that you are one of the many academics throughout the universities of the European Union who is effectively paid to indoctrinate people with a certain line of thinking that we have to adopt a European... I mean, come on, you talked about let's have a bit of honesty. It's a classic symptom of where this European Union has gone wrong, that the attempt to indoctrinate children at university is... I was right there, wasn't I? Some quick points about these renegotiations, these guarantees. They're not guarantees at all, they're clarifications. And the Minister said you'd achieved some significant changes. This treaty has not changed at all. There is no legal basis for these guarantees whatsoever. They're not worth the paper they're written on. If they were, then the treaty would have changed and the other member states would have to re-ratify.
That in all parliaments where this has been carried, it has been carried handsomely, and in most cases by vast majorities.
All right.
And that's the fact.
Thank you, Minister.
Professional career politicians, 6,000 of them, millions of people vote no in referendums, and they're completely ignored. This battle really is one between the peoples of Europe and its career political class.
Right.
You want Lisbon because it's good for you.
My name is Enda Sherlock. I'm a business person, and I'd like to very much welcome Nigel Farage here today. He represents a brand of economic politics which many people in this country absolutely, completely believe in. Every small corner shop, every small farmer, every person involved in business at any level, those people are monuments, absolute monuments to that mentality. I'd like to point out that Dick Roche is here this evening, representing a government that has less than 17% satisfaction rating in the recent opinion poll, and that Mr Beggs represents the bloated £150,000 per annum face of Irish trade unionist partnership, so-called partnership, parasiteship negotiations. I'd first of all call on Dick Roche to retract the disgusting comments that he made in today's newspaper about Nigel Farage. It would be the same thing as me saying that Dick Roche was coming from the same gene pool as the real IRA, arguably. And I go further and say that the Irish people will hold the line and we'll say no again.